An entitled British customer refuses to pay for their tab, claiming that we're just stupid Americans and that they deserve better treatment at our bar. Things ended up getting so bad that I had to call security just to force them out of the bar. And honestly, I just hope I never have to deal with them ever again. Here's what happened. So I had an awful couple come in this weekend. They grabbed a menu from the host stand and sat themselves at the bar. The host was gone, so I guess no one had seen them come in. And that's the first thing they were annoyed with. Now that is understandable, however, it's not my fault, seeing that I was busy serving people behind the bar. The second thing was the kitchen was closed for everything. It was 1:30, so a half an hour before we close. The guy rolled his eyes, gave a sigh, and started complaining about how ridiculous American restaurants are. The third strike was that they came in 15 minutes till the last call, and spent 5 of it just complaining about the lack of staff. So by the time I cut off his rant to let him know that it was almost last call, he was even more upset. I mean, I tried to be as nice as possible. I cut in and said, just to let you know, last call is about 10 minutes away. Anyways, they get some drinks and hang out and meet up with a friend who was picking up a to-go order from us. They asked if they could eat the to-go order there, and since it was slow, I saw no problem with that and gave them some proper plates. Once our dishwasher leaves, it's protocol to give our carryouts plates and silverware if they happen to decide that they want to eat their order at the restaurant instead. And that was strike 4. Then this guy walks behind the bar to cut up his friend's pizza into small slices. The first time I took a breath and just let him. He had already been super rude and I was so tired. But the second time I told him he had to get out from behind the bar. That's when he just started yelling, "I'm just cutting a pizza, bro. I just need to cut the pizza. It's not that serious." He only listened when security got involved, but still proceeded to complain at me while sitting down. Last call came and went and I gave them their tab and started cleaning. And guess what? They didn't pay it. The guy actually flipped it over and went on to tell his girlfriend how he wasn't paying for this garbage. But I ignored it. I kept cleaning and got everyone else closed out. Eventually, he snapped at me. Like literally snaps at me with his fingers. All the while, he's asking me for a box. So I grab one, drop it off, and I go back to cleaning. I am wrist deep in combining our small trashes into a large one when he pipes up and says, "Can't you just box it up for me? I'm not gonna be able to get it in that box. You're gonna have to do it." This was strike 5. Losing my patience, I told him that it would fit, but I wouldn't be touching his food for him. Flash forward to 2:20 in the morning and he is still there, still complaining, now full of his double tequila soda and basically getting handsy with his girlfriend at the bar. I give him his tab again and I let him know that it's about 10 minutes until security kicks everybody out. This guy then looks at me straight in the face and says to me, "Can I offer you some advice because you're so rude?" At that point, I'm over it and I just tell him, "No, I don't really care about your advice. I need you to pay for your drinks and start heading out." He then proceeds to call me a dumb American jerk and tells me that he wasn't going to pay for anything because apparently he didn't drink anything. He then does something that absolutely blows my mind, and I honestly still think about this to this day. He proceeds to pour his water from his water glass into his cocktail glass right in front of me. He then starts waving it around. "I drank this? This is the drink you want me to pay for? I didn't even drink it. You're just rude." And then he started calling me a bunch of other garbage as well. And this was strike 6 on my patience. I knew I shouldn't have, but I responded by saying, "I don't care about your advice. You need to pay your tab and go." At this point, his girlfriend tries to guilt trip me and she starts to say, "Ew, is there a problem? Do you have a problem with us?" At this point, I'm thinking to myself, screw this. Security eventually gets involved and she ends up paying. And they ask my name 18 times while also saying, "I know the manager and I'm gonna call her." And they said that over and over again as security leads them out. Now, the manager they're apparently such good friends with quit about 2 months ago. And my current manager saw almost everything and luckily took my side. And honestly, I hope I never have to deal with them ever again. Wow, that is seriously a test of patience. You are not kidding. This guy said pretty much everything that would really tick me off if I was in your situation, and I probably would have lost my patience after like strike number 3 if that were me. So to that extent, I commend you because you handled this really well. But also, how can someone possibly act like this? The original poster goes on to explain that they are British and they're definitely not from America. And that is like so much worse because like you're not even from here and you're leaving such a terrible impression about your country. Not to mention the fact that they came in like super late. They left at what, like 2:30 in the morning? I'm pretty sure everything's getting shut down by that point. Like how can you be so inconsiderate? So truly good for the original poster for the way they handled this situation. Because because they were way more patient than anybody probably would have been in that scenario. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting to name our future baby after my husband's dead cat? Here's what happened. So my husband and I got married a year ago. We had been dating since we were 23 and got married last year. We knew that we wanted to have a family and want multiple kids. So a few months after we got married, we started trying for our first baby. I got pregnant and I'm about 24 weeks along today. At my 20-week appointment, they asked if we wanted to know the gender, and we wanted to know so we could start planning names ahead of time. And well, it turns out it's a girl, and I was so overjoyed. The next day, we started talking names, and my husband said that he already knew the perfect name for a girl. He wanted to name her Zoe. Well, here's where the issues begin. Zoe is the name of my husband's cat that passed away when we first started dating. Not only that, but the cat was a gift from an ex-girlfriend that they intended on taking care of together. When they broke up, they had joint custody until she passed away. I gently let him know that I really don't want to name our daughter after his dead cat, and he told me to think about it, reasoning that it fit our criteria of being a short name, one that was bully-proof, it was cute, it was unique so that nobody else in her class will have it, but not so unique that people won't know how to pronounce it. He also considered the cat Zoe like a daughter to him. I then jokingly responded by saying, "So you want to name our baby after your kid from your last marriage?" Well, when I said that, he did not laugh. Instead, he got defensive. He said it wasn't like that, but I said that I didn't really like the idea of naming our daughter after something he associated with his last relationship. He started getting teary-eyed, presumably because he was thinking about his dead pet. He then responded by saying, "Fine, it's your baby, name it whatever you want." And since then, I've been here and there suggesting names I see elsewhere, and every time he responds by saying, "I don't care, do what you want." I can't help but feel like I'm the jerk here. Maybe I'm being too stubborn. I do like the name Zoe, it's just that I don't think I'd be able to move past the history behind it. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Personally, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think the way your husband is acting is really weird. Like, think about it. Who in their right mind would want to name their daughter after their dead cat? I understand the name is cute and it fits all your criteria, but guess what? It's still the name of your dead cat that came from your ex-girlfriend as well. Like, I'm completely on the original poster side in this situation. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your husband, if anything, is the one who's being stubborn and is just being completely unreasonable. Because right now, he's trying to give you like this silent treatment as if he doesn't care, and in my opinion, I think that's really rude, especially considering that this needs to be a joint effort when it comes to naming your future daughter. My sister's parenting style is making me not want to spend time with her at all, simply because she doesn't take care of her kids, and she allows her kids to walk all over her, as she claims to be a gentle parenting mom. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I used to be a nanny, and I think I'm very adept to childcare. I do a lot of things with my niece that her parents hate doing. Being outdoors and cooking together are definitely a big one. Now, for a bit of background, I've always spent a ton of time with my niece, and I stayed with my sister and brother-in-law for a month after she was born, even though I lived 6 hours away at the time, and in turn, they let me stay with them for a while a couple of years ago when I was between jobs. Now, my sister is a gentle parenting mom, but my niece is now 4 and she's turned into a total pushover. She lets my niece totally dictate everything. She is a sensitive little girl and I love her so much. I'm not even a heavy-handed person at all. I'm very compassionate, but I've always made certain standards of behavior clear to her and all my former nanny kids with clear and compassionate discipline attached to it. For example, if you can't stop hitting your sibling, you have to go sit in the other room quietly and be alone. Stuff like that. I simply had too many siblings at a time sometimes to talk through the big feelings that cause one to start hitting. Just to illustrate as an example, well, my sister and her family recently visited me and my fiance, and I planned out a kid-friendly itinerary for the whole weekend. However, we didn't do a single thing I had planned. I'm flexible and understand toddlers, but for example, they didn't want to go to the petting zoo that I had planned because it was too cold, and instead we drove around so my niece could watch her iPad, and eventually they decided they wanted to go to a playground outside. They brought nothing to entertain her during meal times and ordered her 3 separate entrees because she didn't eat each previous one once we were at lunch. They were totally focused on her wishes at any moment in time. They also had the chance to meet my future in-laws for the first time and blew off dinner to go play in the backyard while we ate because my niece wasn't done playing yet before dinner. Overall, I just felt like they were so rude and I didn't get to actually spend time with any of them. We then spent Thanksgiving with them, and that weekend, my sister planned a full day outing that excluded only my fiance. She originally told me that she planned it just for me, her, and my niece, and the plan was for my fiance and brother-in-law to hang behind. Then, at the last minute, she told me she got another ticket for her husband, but they were sold out, so my fiance couldn't go too. We had another lunch, during which I had to discipline my niece to keep her from crawling all over the restaurant floor and scrounge up things to entertain her with, because my sister never brings crayons or anything other than an iPad. Every single thing we do during a visit is subject to my niece's veto power. If she doesn't want to go to the museum, for example, even though we all have tickets to already go, we simply won't go. This dynamic used to be okay when my niece was a baby and I was single and visiting alone. However, now I just feel they are rude, wet blankets and totally let my niece run the show. Every time I see them, they are overwhelmed by parenting. I feel for them and I'm not trying to be callous. I help out a lot when I see them, but I'm also not visiting to be their temporary nanny. I didn't visit for Christmas because after these last two visits, I just didn't want to deal with the stress and manic energy. I just spent it alone with my fiance. My sister is angry at me for not making plans for Christmas, and truthfully, I wasn't that communicative because she guilt trips me into visits, saying my niece wants to see me. I love my sister and my niece, but I feel my sister caters to her, doesn't set age-appropriate boundaries, and generally makes our visits very stressful. However, I absolutely don't want to criticize her parenting style, especially as a non-parent, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. I first want to say that someone in the comment section of this post put it best. They basically said, listen, you don't have to be a pilot to know that a helicopter in a tree is not a good thing. And that's a good answer to the original poster basically saying, hey, I'm not a parent, I don't want to judge. Because I am right there with the original poster in this regard. The sister of this story is completely uninvolved with their kid and keeping them in line. Like seriously, is it that hard to plan something for your child? Also, is it that hard to follow through with your plans? Listen, this kid is 4 years old. She literally doesn't know what she wants, and to be held hostage by that is simply insane. You are the parent, not the other way around. It's crazy to me and incredibly annoying whenever I see parents who literally let their kids dictate everything in their life. They're just complete pushovers and let their kids walk all over them. Like that sets a really weird precedent moving forward, and in my opinion, there's no good excuse for that. Because here's the thing, if you do let those kids walk all over you without setting up some kind of, I don't know, punishment for acting up, then that's the way it's gonna be literally forever. And trust me, I get it, I'm not trying to be callous either, but based on what the original poster has spelled out, it really seems like that toddler runs that house, and I know I would be really annoyed if I came along to, I don't know, a museum trip, and then suddenly we're not gonna go because this stupid kid in the back doesn't want to go. It's like, seriously, what are we doing? Maybe have somebody babysit the kid so the rest of us can at least enjoy our time out. So I don't blame you for not wanting to go to your sister's house, especially because you become like an impromptu nanny pretty much every time you go. And that in and of itself has got to be absolutely obnoxious. Am I the jerk for not buying my sons any Christmas gifts, all because they're bullying their little sister? Here's what happened. So I'm a 33-year-old female with 3 kids. My twin boys John and Jack are 11 years old, and my daughter Jane is 9 years old. John, Jack, and Jane are not their real names. My boys always had a strong sibling bond. They are inseparable, have the same interests and hobbies, and are doing everything together. I love to see this, but it has a nasty side effect. Their little sister gets often left out by them. Sometimes they offered her to join them, but most of the time I had to remind them that they have a sister and should include her. They always claim that they don't like doing boring girl stuff with her. I encourage them to do the things that she likes too, and to switch between the stuff that they like, but they refused to listen to me and started to shut out their sister completely. This has since been going on for 3 months, so I started withholding pocket money and family activities, with my husband being hesitant at first, but I convinced him. Whenever the boys do something without Jane, I take her to the movies or to go mini golfing and other boring girl stuff, as they would put it. It was hurtful to do this fun activity without my sons, but it is exactly what they would do to their own little sister. I tried to talk to them to explain this, but they refused to listen to me. In the opposite, they started to actively be hostile towards their sister. They ridicule their hobbies, say mean stuff when she walks past them, and push her away when she tries to talk to them. Yesterday morning, we sat at the Christmas Christmas tree and gave Jane her Christmas gifts. When the boys asked me for their gifts, I told them that we don't have any presents for them. They thought I was kidding at first, but when they realized that I was serious, they froze. I told them that they will get their presents once they start to treat their sister like a family member. They then didn't say anything and just went to their room. They only come out now when their dad forces them to eat something. Now, I feel horrible, but at the same time, I'm so angry at my sons. My daughter is beyond sad. She asked me yesterday why her brothers hate her so much. My husband thinks that I'm a jerk for playing favorites and thank me for ruining Christmas, but I will not stand by and watch as Jane gets bullied by her own brothers. So honestly, am I the jerk here? What should I do? Yes, the original poster is 100% the jerk. I can't believe they're even asking that. Let's go over the facts real quick. Your twin boys want to spend a lot of time together, and they're sometimes less likely to include their sister Jane in those activities because clearly there's a lack of mutual interest. And instead of, I don't know, entertaining Jane yourself or even something more reasonable, you instead decided to basically pit your sons against your daughter. Like seriously, what are you doing? You're literally tearing your own family apart, and the icing on the cake is the fact that you didn't give them any Christmas gifts, all under this lie that she's not being treated like a family member. If anything, you're not treating your sons like family members. Like, I don't blame them for going to their room and not wanting anything to do with you. And by the way, you absolutely did ruin Christmas for these kids. They are 11 years old. Like, are you being serious right now? They haven't done anything wrong other than be boys and spend time with each other. You're acting like they started this by being really mean to their sister, but in reality, you're just like obsessing over everything they do for like no reason. And now, as a result of your actions, you are literally making your sons hate and resent their sister. You are literally the problem in this scenario because you started this drama for no reason. So yes, I think you're the jerk, and I definitely think you need to make this up to your sons. Because trust me, I know if I was in that scenario as a kid, I would resent not only my sister, but also my mother for treating me that way. And because of you, I have to agree with your husband. You absolutely did ruin Christmas. An entitled old man tries to yell at me after he accuses me of distracting the dog he was trying to train at a public park. But I decided I was not going to take this sitting down, so I defended myself in a way I've never done in my life. Here's what happened. So about a year ago, I was taking a stroll in a small nature reserve near my house together with my wife and dog. Further along the path, an older entitled man who's about 70 was standing with his family, whom I'm presuming is probably his son or daughter, mostly because they were in their 30s. As we come closer, we saw he was talking to his dog, a young husky. The husky was sitting in front of him in the grass, and he was saying stuff like sit or stay. Now, as we passed, this husky, who's not on a leash by the way, stood up and walked towards our dog who was leashed. They seemed friendly, so I let them sniff and greet each other, but the man walks up to me with an authoritarian air about him and then points and waves his finger at me in a belittling manner. This man looks at me and says, "Can't you see that I'm training my dog? You should not let your dog distract my dog when I'm obviously training him." Now, I have worked very hard for years to become my own boss and not have anybody tell me what to do. I wasn't planning on having a stranger treat me like he was my boss. I am a peaceful guy normally, but this entitled old man struck the wrong chord. So I got angry and I copied his finger pointing. I said to him, "You don't get to talk to me that way. Do you always talk to strangers like that?" His family in the background awkwardly glances at this entitled old man, obviously ashamed of his actions. He goes on to say that he does, while also trying to say something, but I interrupted him. I said to him, "That dog should be on a leash," which by the way is the rule of the nature reserve, and there are high fines if you get caught. The entitled old man then says, "Well, you're right about that, but I'm training him." And before he could continue, I interrupted him again. I said to him, "You should also learn how to talk to strangers and show some manners." At this point, I turn my back to him and I walk away, saying the word unbelievable to my wife just loud enough to make sure that he heard me. He sputtered on for a little bit, but we just ignored him at that point. Now, to be honest, I felt good about how I handled this. A few years ago, I probably would have let him walk all over me, but those days are gone, and I definitely will never let that happen to me ever again. Good for you for standing up for yourself. That guy seriously had a dog off the leash in a park where you very clearly need to have a leash, and then he tries to blame you for his dog getting distracted. Look, if this guy's trying to train their dog, he's not doing a good job. And it doesn't help that he has this weird entitled attitude. Like, the way he was talking to you was so out of line, it's not even funny. Like, there's no reason for him to get an attitude at a stranger who's just walking by on a trail. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me, and there's no good reason for that in the first place. If this guy really wanted to train his dog, by the way, then for starters, he should probably know how to do it, because clearly it's not working. He said repeatedly for the dog to stay and sit down, but the husky got up, walked over to the dog, and pretty much did whatever it wanted. And I'm also pretty sure that huskies are like really hard to train. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure they're like really stubborn animals, which is definitely like an endearing trait to have as a pet, but it can be really infuriating when you're trying to like train them to listen to you for once. So yeah, the original poster is not a jerk in this situation. This old man had no business trying to like boss you around, and it's awesome to see that you stood up for yourself in the face of somebody who was trying to walk all over you. And I overall think you handled the situation really well. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.